It's Paul Evans with step 4 on how to attain anything you want in life. And step 4 is obviously perseverance, being able to keep going when everybody else quits. One of my best friends is a multimillionaire, and when I asked him one day he thought was his number one talent, his number one strength, he said perseverance. Because it's so easy to quit. And most people do. Most people quit so early before they get anything really accomplished and before they really break through. It's kind of built into human nature for some reason. Instead of fighting for things, we kind of quit on things. Lou Holt says this: you aren't going to find anybody that's going to be successful without making a sacrifice and without perseverance. It's so true. Anything that we really want to attain, and it goes back to that first lesson on purpose, whether this was about pleasure or passion or purpose. The pleasures, we'll give up on those in a heartbeat because it's just too hard and we don't think it's worth the effort. That's why I encouraged you right out of the gate to make goals based on purpose, because it's something that you're going to feel incomplete if you don't attain. So how do we persevere? How do we keep going? I'm going to give you a handful of methods. Number one is to reconnect with that purpose. Reconnect. Remind yourself of the reason you began this in the first place. And that's not a casual, I'm going to read back over it and feel, this kind of warm, gooey feeling. But to really get a little bit frustrated at yourself, look at it and say, this is what I promised. This is what I committed to. And knock yourself out a little bit, being willing to really hit it hard and do what you really need to do. So reconnect with that purpose at a root level, at a gut level, to say this is really what you want to accomplish. Or at least have the honesty to say, I don't even know why I wrote that down. But don't be mamby-pamby and soft, but reconnect. I'm going to hit this a little bit harder later about being soft and about us being weak. Secondly, recount. Recount what you've already done, the steps you've already taken, the things that have already gone right, the advancements, the successes. When we hit a wall or we get undisciplined or we feel like, man, I'm gonna quit, you need to look at where you come from and what you've already accomplished, even if it's not as far as you want, even if it didn't come as quickly as you wanted. And even if you're not at the stage that you wished you were by whatever point, by the 1 month point, the 6 week point. When I owned the gym, it was so amazing that on January 1 and 2 and 3, the signups were through the roof. But I can tell you this, at the end of a month, 80% of those people, they were gone. And of the 20% that remained, only about 20% of those really became committed. And by the 6 week mark, by mid-February, almost everybody had dropped out. Why? Because they didn't stay with it long enough to see at least some progress and some success. And when they did, when they got on the scales after 2 weeks and it wasn't as low as they had originally envisioned, they felt discouraged, they felt dejected, and they gave up instead of going, okay, so I didn't lose 10 pounds, but I did lose 4. All right, so I'm not as strong as I thought I was going to be, but I am lifting, 3% more than I was before. That's why it's so important to track and to keep a record and to journal what you're doing so that you can recount the successes. And that helps you persevere, because even if you're not where you want to be, you're not where you were. So make sure you're counting all of your successes. Next, react. React. Don't just sit there. Don't just get all mental and think, well, I shouldn't have even done this. I don't know what's wrong with me. This was stupid. It was stupid. Get out of your head and get physical. Do something about it. So if you made it a goal to lose weight, get out there and exercise, react, do some actions, take some steps. If it's building your online business and you've been making a blog post every day for several weeks and you feel like you're not getting the traffic that you want, you got to keep acting. You got to keep moving. It's that consistency. It's persevering during the tough times that it ends up being a blessing down the road. You may not like this example, but Michael Hyatt at michaelhyatt.com, his first 3 to 4 years of posting online, of doing a blog post almost every day, Monday through Friday, for 4 years, it didn't really pay off. He didn't really have a lot of traction. But then it started escalating like crazy. Now, you might be thinking, well, Paul, I don't want to make any kind of 4-year commitment. That's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous if it's your purpose. If it's what you feel like your life is based on, it's not ridiculous. You put in the hours, you put in the time, you put in whether it's days or weeks or months or years because you're so committed to this. Whereas if we've just got some kind of soft little goal that our life isn't based on it, well, no wonder we give up so easy. So when you're wanting to give up, you got to persevere by acting, taking action, even if you don't feel like it. Even if you don't want to, you keep going. Next, you recruit. Recruit. You should have done this probably from the very beginning, and that is to have some people in your corner who are going to keep you accountable and make sure that they push you. But at the very minimum, when you're wanting to give up, call somebody and say, look, here's one of my big goals, and I feel like I'm about to quit. I need you to keep me accountable. Here's what I'm about to go and do. I want to make sure that I turn this into you by the end of today. And that's another great reason to have a coach. I have people all the time who will email me and say, Paul, I feel like giving up. What should I do? You know my business. What should I do today? And I'll give them an assignment. And they have to complete that assignment and turn it back into me. Man, that's totally different than sitting around thinking, I don't know whether to give up or not. Man, contact somebody, whether it's your coach or whether it's a friend, and say, hey, I'm putting myself on the line right here to accomplish X by the end of the day or X by this time tomorrow. So make sure you've got some people recruited. It can be a coach, it can be a friend, but I think it's critical if we're going to persevere. If we're trying to do all this alone, chances are we're going to give up. And then finally, readdress. This is very close to reconnect, but I look at readdress as saying, I'm dedicated. I'm disciplined. I'm going to readdress the reason I did this in the beginning, and I'm going to stop being weak. The truth is, most people, by and large, they're just weak. They set soft goals. They set very easy to attain goals. Let me give you an example from the spiritual realm. Most of you guys know that I'm a believer of the Christian faith, and I was teaching in class yesterday about when people quit attending church and they get upset that nobody notices they were missing. And my question in the class was, what are you doing that will be missed? Attendance alone, now some of you are going to disagree with me on this, but just showing up and then disappearing, I don't know that that's a worthy enough lifestyle in your church. Whereas if you're active, if you're doing it each and every day, and then you go missing, people should notice that you're gone, right? Well, your purpose in life should be so strong that if you leave it, if you become missing, that people notice it. But most of us set goals that are so soft and so weak that if we give up on them, it doesn't make a difference. Listen, folks, let's get beyond that. Let's get after it. Let's build a business that if it closes, everybody notices. Let's open a business, whether it's online or if it's offline. But let me use online as an example because that's where I spend most of my time. If we're going to start something in 2013 and say that we're going to build this business, let's make it so that it's valid, it's viable, it's valuable. So if we don't show up, people notice. That if we stop sending the newsletter, people notice. That if we don't make a post or a blog, people notice. So I want you to readdress your goals overall when you're trying to persevere and make sure there's something you need to be dedicated to. Hopefully you did that in step 1. But when it comes time to, you feel like you're going to quit, you need to readdress and make sure you're doing it for the right reason, not being soft and not being weak. Listen, all this is not easy and it's not fun. Let me go back to one more spiritual example. A lot of times people will say, I want to read my Bible more. You should be doing that anyway. That's not a big goal. That's simple. It's easy. We ought to be, I should even take perseverance. Whereas to say I'm going to save up enough money to go on a mission trip by myself, even if nobody else goes with me, hey, that's tougher, isn't it? All right, so we got to push harder. We got to go after it. Our goals need to mean something, and we need to readdress our commitment when we feel like we're about to give up. Listen, this year can be incredible. You can attain anything that you want to attain. And there's going to be times where you're up against the wall and you want to quit. But here's the deal. We got to keep going. And we can if we'll readdress, if we've got some folks in our corner and we recruit, if we'll react and not just sit there, but we get out there and take action, if we recount all the success that we've had up to the point in which we want to quit, and if we'll reconnect with our purpose and understand that if we don't do this, then our life's going to feel incomplete. So those are just a handful of steps far beyond the kind of sissy stuff we see about perseverance that's out there, like, read a motivational quote or watch a motivational video. I think those are okay and they work, but we got to get deeper than that. We got to be more serious than that. We got to be more focused to that if you want to kill it, if you want to crush it in your life. Until next time, with step number 5, this is Paul Evans. Success is not an accident.